Hello, pre-algebra students. This lesson video is going to be on inequality applications. This is our last lesson of 3 lessons on inequalities. In this lesson, we're really going to focus on representing situations with inequalities and using these skills we've been working on with solving inequalities to help us solve these problems we're representing. I also want to point out over here this announcement that tomorrow we have a benchmark. The benchmark tomorrow is going to cover the 3 lessons we've been working on with inequalities. At this point in the video, I encourage you to go ahead and pause the video to try this warm-up question. It's really going to help you get ready for the new stuff we're learning in this video. Hopefully you have tried this warm-up question. The question tells us the story about Noelle and her savings account, and we are asked to write an inequality to represent this situation here. We've learned that this word inequality gives us a really big clue that we aren't going to be using an equal sign to represent this. We're going to need like a less than or greater than sign. And the way we decide which one we're going to need comes from words in the story. Specifically, in this story, we're told that by the end of the month, her savings account has over $200. That word over is giving me a clue what inequality sign I need. Over $200 means more than 200. It means I'm going to need that greater than sign. The other thing we're going to need to help us represent this is a variable. I know how much she has at the beginning. I know she has $59, but I don't know how much money she has added. So to represent this, I could use X as my variable, but X would represent the money Noelle adds to her savings account. So all together, our inequality would be the $59 she starts with plus the X dollars she's added. And by the end of the month, she has over or greater than $200. Just a reminder, when you're writing inequalities, same as equations, we're not putting words or symbols like dollar signs in them. This right here would be what our inequality looks like. The second part of the question, how much money did Noelle save this month? To answer that, we're just going to solve our inequality. To solve this inequality, I want to subtract 59 on both sides of my inequality. On the left side, that's going to give me X all by itself. I keep that greater than sign. And then on the right side, I'm going to have 141. That's telling me that she must save more than $141. This right here is giving us an idea of what this lesson is going to be all about. In this, we did 2 things. We took a story and represented it with an inequality. We are going to continue to practice that skill in this lesson. And then the other thing, solving inequalities. We had a whole lesson on that, but this is going to be a great chance to use what we've learned about solving inequalities to help us solve these problems. The goal specifically is those 2 things we just said, right? Is I can use inequalities to represent and solve these word problems. To get us started, we are going to really focus in on this idea of being able to represent stories. And so I have 4 stories right here. I kept a lot of the numbers the same. Notice all of them have 100, 10, and 20 in them. What I really want you to do is focus in on what inequality sign we need in each story, and then what operations are happening, where we are multiplying the X. Is it with the 10 or is it with the 20? And then is it addition or subtraction happening? Those are all important skills that we are practicing in this problem. And it's a matching activity. So we have 4 stories over here that you're going to match with these 4 inequalities. I'm going to have you go ahead and pause the video now and come back once you've got these 4 stories matched up with these 4 inequalities. And as you are doing this matching activity, what I want you to do, just like we did above, is find those key words that help you decide your inequality signs. So for example, up here, we said the word over 200 helped me know that it was greater than. If you're copying these stories down or reading them on the screen, make sure you're identifying what those key words are. Again, try these problems and then come back when you have the answers. And we are back. I have the answers up here on the screen. For number 1, you should have matched that with C. A couple of ways you could have done that. We've got the water tank starts with 100. Because we are emptying the tank, that is why we're using subtraction. We're emptying 10 gallons per minute. So that's happening again and again and again. That's where that 10x is coming from. And then I asked you to look for those inequality words. Under 20 is how we know that we're using that less than sign, that less than 20 right there. Next, number 2, you should have matched that with A. We've got Deanna's buying pizzas for $10 each. $10 for every pizza is where that 10x is coming from. She's using a $20 off coupon. That's why we're subtracting 20, is because coupons take away that money from your total price you're paying. And then again, we're looking for those inequality words. I know it is a less than or equal to sign because of that word maximum. If you can spend a maximum of $100, that means 100 is the most you can spend. You can spend exactly 100, or you can spend less than $100. So that translates to that less than or equal to sign. Next, number 3, you should have matched that with D. We've got his bank account starts at -10, so that's that -10 there at the second term in our inequality. He's depositing 20 each week. That's a positive 20 each week. That's our 20x. And then again, we're looking for over 100. We saw that word over before. That's our greater than sign right there. And then finally, that last story is about Denise wants to learn 10 new Spanish words every day. That's our 10x. She already knows 20 words, so we're going to add those 20 she already knows to the 10 she's learning every day. And then she's wanting to learn at least 100. We've talked about those words at least. They can be really tricky because least sounds like less. But if you say at least 100, that means she wants to know 100 or more. It means 100 is the smallest number she wants to know. So she's okay learning exactly 100 words or greater than 100 words. That's that greater than or equal to sign. Now, this skill here of being able to match is important, right? But really our end goal is, if I gave you these stories, could you write the entire inequality, not just be able to match it? And so part of being able to do that is knowing all these key words that I've been highlighting. And so down here, we're going to create a table helping us organize these words. In my head, I organize them really into 2 categories. We've got those words that mean less than, or even less than, or equal to. And then we also have words that mean, and I'll change colors, greater than, or also greater than or equal to. And there are so many words that you can see in these stories that help us know what inequality sign we need. But I've got a lot of the most common ones down here at the bottom. And the nice thing about inequality words is a lot of times they come in pairs. So for example, over and under are an example of a pair. One of those is going to mean less than, and one of those is going to mean greater than. So again, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and see if you can sort all of these words into these 2 categories. Which words are going to mean less than or equal to, and which ones mean greater than or equal to. Pause the video, see if you can sort them, and then come back to get those answers. I have the answers here all sorted for us. As we're going through these, I'm also going to include which sign it is. So when you say something needs to be under, that means specifically just less than, and over would mean only greater than. When you say at most, if, for example, my classroom can hold at most 15 students, that means it could hold less than 15 students or exactly 15 students. So that's that less than or equal to sign. At least we've talked about a lot. It's similar where it's greater than or equal to. Maximum and minimum are synonyms for at most and at least. You can say my room can hold at most 15 students, or you can say my classroom can hold a maximum of 15 students. Those both mean the same thing, and so they're going to be the same symbols. Fewer than, that word few or fewer means the same thing as less. So fewer than just means less than. similar to more than. It's just another way to say greater than. And then no more than and no less than are saying it's not that. So if it's not more than, that means it could be less than or it could be equal to. It can be anything but more than or greater than. No less than means it can be anything but less than. So it could be greater than, it could be equal to, it just can't be less than. We've been mentioning these words in the first two lessons and in the first half of this lesson, but I think it can be helpful to have all of the words in one place. I would definitely include this in my notes, especially if some of these words have been harder for you to figure out which inequality sign they mean. You could put them on an index card to help you study, or even just have them in your notes to look at as you're working through practice problems. Now that we've gone through some of these common words, let's make the change from just matching to actually writing these inequalities ourselves and practicing using all these different skills we've learned in the past couple lessons. So, down here we have a story. We've got the cost of renting a car is $25 per day, plus a one-time fee of $75 for insurance. How many days can the car be rented if the total cost is to be no more than $525? As I'm reading through that, I'm already seeing one of those key phrases we noticed above. The first part of this question asks us to write an inequality. Remember, our inequality is going to look like one of these we've matched here. So like these, you're going to have a variable you need to identify, and you're going to have to decide which inequality sign you need. We've done practice on this. I think you can at least try this. So go ahead, pause the video and see what inequality you can come up with, and then come back to the video to get the answer. When we go to write this inequality, I'm thinking about what is going towards the cost. So the first thing I have to pay is that $25 for each day. And then I also have to pay a one-time fee of $75. So I'm paying $25, but I'm paying that every single day I have the car. So that $25, it's not a one-time fee. I would pay that times the number of days I have my car. So that's where a variable comes in. I might use the letter D, and I'll describe that in a moment, what D represents. $25 per day, and then it says plus a one-time fee of $75. Because it's telling me that fee is one time, means I'm not multiplying it at all. It's just a one-time thing. I pay it once. We've got the total cost is to be no more than $525. That's that phrase that's going to help me figure out our inequality sign. And we named it right up here. No more than means it can't be more than. It could be less than, or it could be equal to, just not more than our $525. This right here would be our inequality. And I'm going to switch to typing. Because we use that variable, I need to say what D represents. Remember, if you're describing a variable, you want to be as specific as possible. So I'm not just going to say day. I'm going to say it's a number. Is it the number of dollars you pay, or is it the number of days in a week? What is it? It is the number of days you rent the car. Remember, your variable is always the thing you don't know. It's not the money you pay per day, because we know that, but we just don't know how many days you have the car. So this right here would be a perfect inequality and a description of our variable. For the second part, to figure out how many days the car can be rented, now we just have to solve this inequality. I'm going to go ahead and type our inequality here. By the way, when it comes to writing that inequality sign, especially on homework, since I know you all are typing these symbols on your homework, I know a normal keyboard does not have that less than or equal to symbol, so you can just type them as two separate signs. You can type the less than sign and then the equal sign like this, and I know what you mean. So less than or equal to 525. When we go to solve this, we're going to get rid of our constant first. So I'm going to subtract 75 on both sides. That leaves me with my 25D is less than or equal to, that's going to be 450. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to divide both sides by 25. It gives me D is less than or equal to, I believe that's 18, right? Divide by 25. Yep. We get D is less than or equal to 18. When it comes to what that means, we got D is less than or equal to 18. Well, we set up here D is the number of days you rent the car. So it means the number of days you can rent the car can be less than or equal to 18. You can rent it for exactly 18 days and spend all your money, or you can rent it for less than 18 days and you would be under $525. So you wouldn't spend all your money. You would still be within your budget. So this right here is a perfect example of combining what we've learned about looking at a story, representing it with an inequality, and then using this skill of being able to solve an inequality to help us figure out some helpful information. If you've got a budget, it's helpful for us to know what's that maximum number of days you could have the car. So to finish up this lesson, there is one for you to try where you're going to put everything together that you have learned. For this story, we're going to start with our inequality, and then just like above, I have a couple of bonus questions for you once we've got our inequality. Go ahead, pause this video, take as long as you need to write that inequality and describe your variable, and then come back when you have the answer. For this one here, to represent this story about Donald with an inequality, he is starting with $400. He is withdrawing or taking out $25 each week, and his goal is to have at least $200 left. So we want that money in his account to be to be greater than or equal to 200. I use that variable W. W is going to represent the number of weeks Donald withdraws money from his account or something like that. Once we've got this inequality and we agree on this inequality, we can use this inequality to help us describe the solutions to this story here. So down below, I've got these 3 questions. These are all related to what we've been talking about in these 3 lessons on inequalities. So one last time, pause this video, answer these 3 questions, and then come back to see how you did. Well, the answer B, we just need to solve that inequality from earlier. So again, our inequality was 400 minus 25W is greater than or equal to 200. To solve that, I'm subtracting 400 on both sides. That gives me, hopefully you caught that negative sign there. Negative 25W is greater than or equal to negative 200. And then when we divide both sides by, where did 14 come from? Negative 25. There was that rule we learned. Do you remember the rule? If you divide by a negative, you have to flip your inequality sign. So you should have W is less than or equal to 8. That means how many weeks can he withdraw money? I can't type tonight. He can withdraw money for 8 weeks or less, which makes sense. Thinking about it, if he did the full 8 weeks, that takes him down to exactly $200. But if he did less weeks, if he took out less money, well, then he would have more than $200 in his account, which he would be okay with. Once we've got this answer, part C asks us to show it on a number line. So we talked about this. You can draw your number line. You can put lots of numbers in. The most essential one, though, is we need 8. You can always put a couple of the numbers nearby on it, right? Like 7, 6, 9, 10, all of those. But the two things I'm really looking for is based on this, which side are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the numbers less than 8, so that's going to be the numbers in this direction. And then I'm also paying attention to what you do at the number 8 to show that 8 weeks is also a possibility. We use a closed circle, which looks like this circle here that is all colored in. So either looking at our answer here or looking at our number line, both of those help us answer this question. Could he withdraw money for 10 weeks? What did you say? Well, we're shading all of the possible answers on our number line. So if I could see my number line, I'm seeing that pink arrow says 8 or 7 weeks or 6 weeks, but it does not have 10 weeks shaded in. And our solution over here is saying the number of weeks is 8 or less. So my answer is going to be no, he cannot. He can only withdraw money for 8 weeks or less. That would be a perfectly good answer. You could even take it further, though, and say something like, if he withdrew money for 10 weeks, what would happen if he did that? Like, why is that not okay? Well, his goal is to have at least $200. We said that means 200 or more. And if he did it for 10 weeks, he would have less than $200, which for Donald, that's a problem. I like this question because, like the title says, right, you're putting it all together. I think this question here is a perfect example of everything we have learned in these 3 lessons about inequalities. We are representing stories with inequalities. We're solving our inequality. We're graphing our inequality. And part D is really testing, do you understand what you did? Right? We want to be able to solve inequalities, but you also want to understand what it means. So I hope you're feeling good, especially after looking at the answers for this last one. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you're feeling confident and ready to do that homework assignment. Again, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.